Everyone and their nan knows Mirage, because it's the most played map in CS2, so you're gonna have to play it at some point, whether you like it or not. And this video will serve as your Mirage Starter Pack, the stuff that you actually need to know so you can jump in, understand the comms, and not feel so lost. But before we get into that, we've got an official StarLadder major partner, xplay.gg, on board with this video. They have more than 28 server regions, so even if you live in, Yekaterinburg, you can play and still have good ping. Whether it be deathmatch, retake, or even setting up your own personal match, where you can customize everything in a couple of clicks. It's great for practice or just having fun with friends. They even have a challenges tab where you can win free skins, but usually I just change my skin in the server anyway. But honestly, thanks to xplay for being proper dudes and sponsoring the video. Remember, they could have gone to anyone, but they've decided to come to us, so let's show them some support. But yeah, let's talk about Mirage. When you're learning something new, it helps to have it explained to you like you're a child. Hiya! Sorry. Think of Mirage like a small house of two doors. One is A, one is B, and mid is the hallway between them. If Ts control the hallway, they can walk through either door. They can go to A through connector or jungle, or go to B through short, and CTs kinda have to guess. Whereas if CTs control the hallway, they can see everything, rotate fast, and that usually leads to more round wins. When Ts want to take the hallway, they basically have to turn off the cameras first. That's what the smokes and flashes do. Window, connector and short can get blocked off, and mid suddenly feels a lot more free. There are other connecting areas on the map of course, but if you've lost control of window, connector and short, you're usually not in a great position in the round anyway, because mid is important, so expect quite the fight for it. Even with that explanation, it can still feel like the map is a guessing game between which site the enemy will go to, but it's not really the case. A perfect example of how teams actually play is something called a default. A default just means instead of all 5 players rushing somewhere, T side spreads out across the map. You'll have someone watching A ramp or palace, someone towards B, and a couple of players working mid. The goal is to either get an opening kill or slowly take map control so you can decide which site is the best to hit. For example, if you've lurked all the way out A ramp and no one's peeked you, that's a big clue. Maybe the mid players can swing through connector or wrap round through T-spawn and join you for an A hit. Obviously, every round is different, players make different decisions, and aim isn't a script. Gunfights will play out differently. But at the start of every round, T-side is basically doing one of two things. They either have a set plan that they want to execute, or they're running a default to feel out the round. And to mirror the T-side setup, it's a good idea to look at how you'll be defending against them. CT side typically has 2 players at A, one of which is closer towards site/ramp, and then one leading towards connector to help with mid, and then there's one at mid, and sometimes will be in connector or maybe even short, and then we have 2 players at B, again, one closer to site holding apps, and one leaning more towards short to help with mid. From the CT's point of view, the main choke points that we care about are A ramp, A palace, and B apartments, and obviously mid. These are the main entrances that we want to delay, deny, or fight for, so Ts can't just walk into the house for free. If we can slow them down here and keep some eyes on mid, both bomb sites are covered and we can still rotate in time. When people do want to get aggressive in mid, the site players can help them with flashbangs thrown over these roofs from A or B. But in terms of learning little tricks and movements in each spot, it can be a rabbit hole in itself, so I won't get too deep into that here, since this is just a starter pack. But if you do want more detail, I'm planning videos that focus directly on specific positions and roles, so we can really break those down another time in one of those kind of videos. One thing that I do want to go over though is a few pieces of CT utility that you should know. So let's ramp it up a little bit. On A as a CT, a simple, strong routine is throwing a molly at A ramp at the start of the round and a flash at mid to assist your window player. You can throw the ramp molly from safety without being visible to ramp, and it lands quickly enough to catch people trying to take early space. And then, on your way to connector to help mid, you can actually throw this flash behind the palm trees so that the Ts barely see it before it pops. Bloody belter. And for the window player, you can use a HE to disrupt T utility. You can blow open a window smoke or a top mid smoke and maybe catch a T crossing. And here's a cheeky little pro tip for you. If you throw your HE grenade at the same time a teammate throws the flashbang into mid, your nade will explode right as their flash pops, and you'll often see a bunch of blinded players who aren't expecting your angle. And over at B, there's another really useful pop flash that you can throw from market window to send a teammate flying into apps. You can use the same lineup for a molly or HE as well to slow down any rushes. But that's a bit of beginner utility for the CT side to get you started. Even if you just learn these nades, you'll already be doing more than most people in your rank. But most of the heavy duty smokes are on the T side, and it is a lot to take in. So here's the minimum that I'd recommend that you start with. I'd learn at least one insta smoke for window. I'd learn a basic way to smoke connector or short. I'd learn the 3 main A smokes for an A execute, which is stairs, jungle and CT. And I'd learn 1 or 2 B smokes, like maybe market window or market door. I used a Mirage smoke workshop map to learn these, and it took about 30 to 40 minutes to get them into my head. And then for the next couple of nights I just hopped on before playing and refreshed my mind. And after that, I basically couldn't forget them. I'll link the exact maps that I used in the description, and as for the insta smokes, I'd suggest learning connector and short ones when you get more comfortable. But to be fair, with CS2 and the infinite skybox, there are countless smokes that you can learn, but for the time being, learn a window smoke, your A smokes and some B smokes. Speaking of executes, a lot of the time your teammate might just call to execute A, and they will usually expect someone to smoke stairs, jungle cross and CT spawn, unless you're told otherwise. So this is how to smoke stairs, this is how to smoke jungle cross, and this is how to smoke CT spawn. As I hinted at before, there's loads of ways to throw these smokes, but these are my go-tos. It's also a good idea to throw a molly at this bench by the jungle smoke and throw a molly under palace, whether it be throwing it off this A sign or having someone inside of palace throwing it from there. As for flashes, try to only throw them over these 2 areas. I'll explain why now. If you're throwing it on the right side, it's going to pop above Tetris, which is going to be behind where your enemies are facing, and it will pop in front of where they're facing, the site. And then if you're throwing the flashes on the left here, they're going to flash above palace, which is not going to flash our teammates at ramp, but it will flash the players on site, stairs and jungle if thrown correctly. Also, I do need to say here, do not get stuck in Tetris. Try to path out to the left instead and fight for default, or at least push up towards sandwich and take some space. Over at B, the smokes that you'll often be asked for is market window, market door, and maybe one of the archers or short. But to be honest, most of the time if people go B, it's either for a rush, a simple contact play, or not at all. Most of the action will take place at mid and A, which is where I'm going to shift the attention for just a moment. Where to plant the bomb. It's something so simple, but on Mirage it can lead to a very unhappy set of teammates if you get it wrong. On A, this spot is known as the default plant position, but I honestly don't think it deserves the title, because unless you're forced to plant here, you should always try and plant somewhere else, because in the post plant, you can only hold the default plant position from a couple of angles safely, and you'll find that a lot of the time, a more open plant will lead to more success as you can hold the bomb from so many more areas. These dynamics don't really transfer to B as much. There is a default plant spot, which is fine, but if you can, it's usually best to plant for short, because again, it just opens up more visibility for anyone trying to stop the defuse. But alongside smaller things like this, downloading workshop maps for more nuanced lineups and unique pre-fires is a really good idea. You don't need to grind these for hours every day, but even 10 to 15 minutes before your queue can make the Mirage feel a lot less scary. But yeah, I hope I've given you enough information to queue up some Mirage games without being so scared of not knowing something, because CS is a game of learning, and people can be quite toxic about mistakes, and that can kind of bring on some sort of anxiety that makes you almost play worse, which, funny enough, is exactly what I'm going to make my next video about. So if you've got any thoughts, opinions, or just something that you're struggling with on the topic, I'll read through all of it, and I might mention your comment in the next video. But yeah, that's enough from me. See ya.